Hi, my name is Bill, and everybody calls me Crystal Bill because of my incredible crystal collection. I have spent the last 30 years looking all over the planet for the most beautiful crystals I could find. And today I want to share with you these incredible crystal balls. This particular one here is the best I've ever seen. It's almost 140 pounds. And it came out of a large hexagonal crystal that was probably close to 2 tons in weight before they started cutting. The process for creating a crystal ball is to take the original crystal that has an irregular shape and cut it into a cube. This is done with tooling that's similar to woodworking tools, except that all the blades have been embedded with diamonds. Once the crystal is cut into a cube, the corners are cut off, the edges are cut off, the corners are cut off, the edges are cut off. Eventually, they wind up with something that looks like a geodesic sphere. You've probably seen these. Sometimes they call them sun catchers. They hang in windows and have triangular faces. At that point, the crystal ball still has a lot of work left to go. What they do in Brazil is they take a gigantic sanding strip, which is 2 feet wide by 6 feet tall. This enormous belt rotates around while 2 men hold this extremely heavy crystal up to the belt, grind it down into a near perfect ball, at which point there are several different ways of creating perfection in the shape. One is called using cup grinders, which is a mechanical means of using 2 or 3 motors to get the ball to grind itself down into a perfectly round shape. The other way is to put it on a turntable, like these are, and to spin it until it jams against a set of calipers, and then polish it a little, spin it, back it up, polish it, spin it, back it up, polish it. Repeat about 1,000,000 times. Eventually they'll come up with a completely round, completely polished crystal globe. When they're shipped up here from Brazil, I have some local friends who do extraordinary lapidary work, and they'll actually take these and polish them again to bring out a perfect high glaze. You can see on these crystal balls that some of them have different tints of color to them. This really large one at 288 pounds is very, very white. And by white, we don't mean just a solid white, but it has white inclusions inside of clear quartz. This slightly smaller one, which is one of the clearest big ones I've ever seen, has a light citrine tint, and that's a golden quartz color that may look a little bit tan, a little bit gold. It depends on the lighting. Sometimes you wouldn't even notice the color unless it was sitting against or next to a white crystal or maybe a white piece of paper. Then the tint is really obvious. Here's a small crystal ball that's very clear, and I'd like to discuss different grades of clarity. Each of these crystals has inclusions, except for the really, really rare ones that have absolutely nothing visible inside of them whatsoever. You can see one of those at the Smithsonian and another one at the Los Angeles Natural History Museum. However, most of the crystals do have these beautiful inclusions that to me make them extremely interesting. The inclusions include microscopic drops of water that look like mist, and in some cases you might be able to see waves, what looks like waves floating inside of the crystal. When the mist becomes too dense, the crystal has no more visibility. In between, there are different levels of clarity. A completely clear one is called optically clear or water clear. The ones that have inclusions may have microscopic gaps in the atomic structure that create a hologram effect. So there's actually rainbows, and in some cases circular rainbows, floating inside of the crystal ball. It's really interesting to me how the colors are created, because light comes in, bounces off the front face of a little gap, and then some of the light goes through the front face, bounces off the back face of the gap, and when the two light rays combine, it creates colors. The colors aren't really there, it's a perceptual thing. As your angle changes, as the movement of the ball changes, as the lighting changes, for instance outdoors in the sunlight, the colors, the rainbows inside of the crystal ball will appear to shift and create all kinds of different beautiful hues. The other thing that we want to talk about with these big crystal balls is just how much clarity there is. So I mentioned that a perfect sphere would be water clear. Here's one that has 100 different rainbows inside of it. So it's not water clear, but it has beautiful, interesting landscapes inside. On a sphere this big, you'll hardly ever see one that has visibility all the way through. The way that I test that is called the fingertip test. I'll put my hand behind the crystal ball, and I'll see if I can spot my fingers moving, and then I'll get really, really close to it, and I'll check and see if my fingertips are visible. If they are visible, sometimes I can actually see my fingerprints.